A Brooklyn community has been torn apart after an horrific car crash over the weekend. It left 3 people dead, 2 young children and their mother. Mourners were out yesterday to pay their respects for Natasha Saada. She and her 2 kids were killed Saturday. They were walking in a crosswalk in Gravesend. Police say it was Miriam Yamiri behind the wheel. She crashed her speeding Audi into another vehicle that was yielding to the family. Yamiri's car flipped. The mother and children were struck. Her 4-year-old son was also struck but has survived and is in critical condition. Police say Yamiri was driving with a suspended license. She now faces multiple counts of manslaughter. There'll be a rally in Brooklyn later today. Local officials and transportation advocates calling for stricter rules for those who are caught speeding again and again and again. Streets Blog has been focusing its reporting this weekend on this topic. Editor-in-Chief Kuntzman is with me. Gersh, good morning.
Nice to see you.
We have seen efforts in the past to identify those who just will not comply with speed limits and do something about it. Those efforts haven't got much traction.
Well, we haven't done enough. The political elite in this city doesn't want to challenge the driving class. And what that means is we've had bills that created the speed camera program, for example. And if you get 15 or more speeding tickets from a camera in a year, you would be subject to a driver training course. Well, 15 is a lot of speeding tickets. And that program was allowed to sunset by the city council. Now we have a mayor who used the term accident to describe what happened on Saturday. Now, that's not an accident by any stretch of the imagination. You have a recidivist speeder, a woman who had 20 speeding tickets on the car in question, who had her license suspended by authorities.
Wasn't supposed to be driving at all.
Right,
yeah.
Was not supposed to be driving. Now, at various times, 3/4 of America are driving on a suspended license. The reason they're driving is because we don't take the car away. So now, you'll hear activists later today talking about a bill that doesn't want to take the car away, doesn't want to make it more difficult for drivers to get around because we're in a very car-dependent society. Now they just want to have a bill that would put a speed limiter inside the cars of people like this woman who are recidivist speeders. If you get 6 or more speeding, speed camera.
So a mechanism that wouldn't allow the car to go over a certain speed.
Right. You could still get to work. You
GPS enabled, that it knows the speed limit where it is.
Virginia just passed a law to do the same. That Virginia became the first state to do it. Washington, D.C. does it. And there's no reason why we can't do this, because remember, most of the drivers who complain about speed camera tickets, well, first of all, there's a simple way to avoid them: don't speed. But if you do get caught by the speed cameras and your license is at risk of suspension, you can't drive. Well, this bill would say, no, you can keep driving, you just can't speed anymore.
So who's the opposition? The politicians who are resistant to it, they think that there's a large community of serial speeders who would rise up and vote them out of office?
I don't think it's that. I think there's just, first of all, we're in a society that has had about 120 years of car culture, right? So after 120 years, everything seems normal that you do behind the wheel of a car, okay? So you've got a political class that's enabled by those types of voters. And, you've got the assemblyman, for example, in that very neighborhood, at the very funeral for this family, telling Streets Blog, well, we can't, there's too many cameras. We can't punish the drivers anymore. Well, going 11 miles an hour above the speed limit, that's normal. Well, frankly, it's not normal, and it's not an accident. It's a result of a choice.
Yeah, well, we all know people who say, I have a house upstate and I can get there in 90 minutes, even though it's a 2-hour drive. So there is a culture that we broadly have that some speeding is okay.
Well, it's enabled by car commercials, for example, that show people driving on empty streets and speeding all over the place. There are no, just as a point of information, there's no speed cameras on highways. It's mostly a residential street thing. You have to go 11 miles an hour above the speed limit in order to get one of those tickets.
And what does it do to this case in particular when you look at the driver's social media presence, for example, and it looks as though she's kind of bragging about how fast her cars can go?
Well, a lot of drivers do brag about how fast their cars can go, and that's something that we always find bizarre when the political class then calls it an accident. It's not an accident if this is part of your lifestyle. That's a choice. That's a result. I don't pay much attention to people's social media. I pay attention to what they do on the roads. She had 20 speeding tickets in little more than a year. That speaks volumes.
And the solution, I mean, there are a lot of solutions proposed. what else is out there as a potential solution?
Well, there's a number of bills. I mean, Andrew Gennardis, who's a state senator from southern Brooklyn, has the bill about the speed limiters. He also has a bill that would require the suspension of licenses for speed camera violations. Right now, if you get a speed camera or red light camera ticket, it doesn't count on your license.
Well,
as
because it
points.
goes to the car.
Sure, it goes to
Right?
that was the workaround.
They don't have proof as to who was at the
driving.
wheel.
Right, which is why the city council created a law that would at least force the owner of that car to go through a safe driving course. And the city council allowed that to sunset. That's the city council under Adrian Adams and under this mayor.
Gersh, thank you for your reporting on this. Thanks for coming in this morning.
Call anytime.